and I found because we already had the little one that was laying on the davenport at the top of the stairs. Well, then there was two other ones, so I went back with one of the other officers, and we went into the bathroom and found the father and the other young boy, and they had pillows in there, and they had water in the tub. They were trying to breathe, and what happened there was they couldn't get out the front door where the little boy was laying, or the stairway to get out. What had happened was the father had nailed the back door shut with a spike, and they couldn't get out. So anyway, the next day, that morning, then that was at night, like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't remember the exact time. But anyway, then the fire marshal came, and that was the fire marshal, Wilbur Johnson from Des Moines, Iowa. That was Easter Day. And he said, "Marlyn, I'll come up and help you." So what we did, a couple other firemen and myself, we went and we put everything back on the bed where the father was laying. And you could see where this window, the south window, was open, and this window over here was open. It came from the boy's room into his room, and you could see where it burnt right across his legs by the bed springs, because he was smoking in bed. That's how it started.
The boy was smoking?
The father was smoking in bed, and he was a deep sleeper. And apparently it really got to going good before he woke up, you know. And then him and the one boy tried to get out. The other boy crawled under his bed, which a lot of kids do, even adults sometimes. I found them in the closets before. But anyway, we got the fire out, and then we put it all back together, just how it was before. Actually, we tipped some of the stuff over, you know, and we found out that that's how it started. The pattern was right there, because the window was open about like this on each one of the windows. So you had this draft going across, and when the father was smoking, he laid his hand down, apparently, down by his leg, and it went across his legs, and I don't know why it never woke him up soon enough, but it didn't. He apparently got up and went to the bathroom with one of the boys, but that's it. That's as far as they got, and that's why they couldn't get out of the building. And it wasn't the owner of the building, it wasn't his fault. It was the people that lived there.
I cried hard. When I went to the funeral, I went home and cried again, because I've never seen 5 hearses at one time.
Crying, you know, I did some of that when I came back also. And what that does, that relieves the pressure off of your mind. It relaxes you when you cry. There's something about it. I know when the guys had the rescue here a short time back, one of the guys that was in there said that, you know, I got back and I sat down and my tears started rolling down my cheek. He says, "Guys, I felt like I was a little kid." I said, "Don't feel bad. That's the way you get rid of your emotions, you know."
About when the Mountaintop and dams burnt.
Okay, when the Mountaintop and dams burnt, I was eating supper at the Elks Club. And I ran to the station and got the truck and got on the truck. Somebody else was there. I wasn't driving then because I was chief, but got on the truck and we got down there, and the guys started to go down, and we figured the basement was on fire the hottest. So the guys started to go down there with a 2.5, and the water was coming out of there. A lot of water comes out of a 2.5 inch, and it just took the water and turned it to steam. It was so hot down there. So I just drew the guys back out of there. Then we went up and sawed a hole, tried to get a hole sawed in the floor so we could get, because we knew about where we thought where the fire was in the basement. And we went into the bar area, the Mountaintop, and tried to saw, and there was so much smoke in there that it killed the engine on the saw. Then we tried an electric saw, and it got so hot it just burned it up, because there was 2 floors there that they had laid in there, you know, over the years. and they were hardwood is what they were, and we couldn't get through it. So we just come out and fought it from the outside. That's what we did. We knew everybody was out of the buildings, so.
It sounds like after this, listening to you, that the first thing you worry about is the safety and that everybody's out of the building.
Everybody's out of the building.
And that probably makes it then quite a different type of relief. You know, you fight the fire, but you fight it differently.
It's a big relief when you find out there's nobody in there. That's a tremendous relief. Because that's what you think about all the way to the fire, especially to a house fire, you know. You just don't know. And the businesses downtown, we didn't know until, well, like the 77, we didn't really know right off the bat, but then Earl came back and told me there was somebody in there. And then you just do it. That's all there is to it.
Big fire was the woods, and that was an arson.
That was an arson. I remember that very well. It was early in the morning, and I came across the bridge because I lived on Sarah Avenue, and we got up and got the trucks and got down there, and I set up my command post in the parking lot of the Woods Hotel. And the guys were around on the east side trying to get in to knock it down, and then there was some on the south side that was trying to get in the doors to knock it down. All of a sudden, the wind switched. And if you knew anything about the hotel had wide walls in it, and in between these two walls was all hollow. Well, what happened was that the fire got into those tunnels. I call them tunnels, but they're walls, you know, that went around the hotel, and it was gone. There was no way to stop it. So it had been closed. I had closed it with the state fire marshal on account of there was lots of pests in it, and there was no place for anybody to live. That was probably the biggest fire that I actually had when I was chief. The other fires, some of them I was assistant chief. But we were there for hours.
Now, I was told, I believe by Herb Klein, that after the fire was put out, there was a fuel tank in the bottom of the woods that had kerosene in it that for some reason did not go off.
It didn't go off, no. Don't know how we could have been that lucky, but it didn't.
Now that was an arson fire.
That was an arson fire.
And suspects.
You know, what really happened there was I was in command and I was in front of the van, and a guy come up to me and he said, "Marlyn, I know who set your fire." And I said, "What?" He said, "I know who started this fire." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, there was a guy running across the bridge, and he said, I stopped to help pick him up, and he said he got in the car and he smelled like gasoline." That's how we found out, and then it just kind of trickled back to some of the others who started the fire.
And I believe
they had broke into, I don't know, Granville's Insurance and some other bookkeeping company that was in there down below, you know, and that's where they set it. And you know, that was just a coincidence. So right away I radioed the police department and I told them to come and talk to me. I didn't want to put it over the air, and they came down and talked to me, and they went out and did their job.
And they made the arrest, and then that even turned tragic.
That even turned tragic because one of the kids, well, when they was going to have the trial, one of the kids, as you know, jumped off of the railroad bridge over there by the water, the dam area, and took his life. And that was too bad. I mean, because, but the other one served his time, so.
Another fire we had downtown that was an arson was the Rocky's Pizza fire in February 1990, in which somebody robbed a store and to cover it up, they set it on fire.
They set it on fire, and I'll tell you what saved that building, and that's that ceiling in that building. That's a metal ceiling in Rocky's store, where the Pizza Ranch is right today. That's what saved that building. It never got upstairs. We got in and got it out right away. Otherwise, it would have been upstairs in the attic, you know, and then we would have been in trouble. But that was like, what time of day was that? It was in the night sometime, I think, if I remember right. But I don't remember the exact time. It was in the morning sometime, early morning. But we hit that right off the bat and we got it out. But I'll tell you what saved that building, and that's that metal ceiling, because it didn't go through there.
Was the BMP Furniture fire.
The BMP Furniture fire, which was across from the City Hall, started, I don't recall what time of day it was when that started, but it was 15 below zero. And I had called Alden to come and help. The biggest problem we had with that building was that there was 3 false ceilings in it. When they originally started, somebody put a ceiling in it, and then there was one above that, and then another one came in, and then another one came in. And the fire got up in there and we couldn't get at it. And we was lucky that it didn't go any further than it did, because we got into the next building and was watching it so that it didn't get into another building. But that was so cold that I had to change men every 10 minutes because their coats froze on them. They couldn't get them off, and I had Alden up on the roof, and the Alden Fire Department and the chief was up there himself, and he had to change men all very short time. It was very, very cold, and what happened that night, it froze one of our pumpers in the street. There was so much water, there was about that much ice, and when we went to leave later on, we couldn't move that truck. We had to wait till the next morning till we could get some hot water and an axe and stuff and chop it and get it out of there.
Now, when you
but there was nobody in that fire.
And when you're actually going to a fire, as the chief, you had to make the decisions on where you want the men to start, and at a point where you decide that maybe this building, we're not going to be able to save it, and we're going to let it burn.
That's what you have to do. You have to make those decisions. I remember when I think it was Mountaintop burned. I forget who the mayor was, and I said, well, we got to make a decision. And the mayor was walking beside me, and he says, no, I'm not making no decision. You're making the decision. And I don't remember who the mayor was at that time now. But it's a decision you have to make. You have to determine, You have to determine after the men get in there, they're educated enough that they know they can only do so much, and if they can't get it knocked down, they back out. That's what education does for you.
When being a resident of Owl Falls, I've seen your fellow firemen. And like the Herb Kleins, the Joe Garcias, the Tony Whitmores, they're more than just a fellow fireman. They're almost like a brother to you.
Yeah, they are. That's true.
And you have to, they got your back. How important is that you have to be able to count on these people? You have to be able to. That's just the way it is. They know what to do. That's where you have your education. And sometimes we might make a mistake when we went into maybe to the front of the house or to the side of the house, and we went in the front, should have been to the side. There's a lot of decisions to make all at once. What you first have to do is get to the fire, and you have to walk around the house to see where the fire is at. And that's how you determine where you start going. And this comes from experience.
Come from experience, lots of experience. Herb Klein had more experience than I did. Joe Garcia, Bob McCary, they've been on longer than I had, but neither one of them wanted to become chief, so I got that job. But
I know when I was coming out here that this interview with you would have to be fairly graphic.
yeah,
That it was going to be things that a lot of people don't want to do or can't do, or they leave it up for people like you to do it.
yeah.
How can you do some of those things and still go
I
home
don't know.
and
It's
sleep
just
afterwards?
it's just that your adrenaline starts running, and you want to help people. You want to help them get out of because you know what a fire can do to them, and the smoke especially. It just runs in your adrenaline, and it's just something that takes over, and you just go at it.
Tell me about being a fireman that you look back on.
It's just something that grows on you. It's something that you want to do, and you want to help people and protect your community. And as you become an officer or a fireman, it doesn't make any difference. You learn all the time, and you take things very seriously.
Did you ever know that you're my hero? And everything I would like to be. I can